Hello, welcome to another episode of Building Bridges of Understanding, the stories of the Muscatine sister cities. My guest today, first let me say, I'm Dan Clark. I'm on the board of Muscatine Sister Cities Association, and I've been elected historian during our 30th anniversary year. Hard to believe it's that long. My guest today is one of our former presidents, Jeff Armstrong. Jeff was Dean of the Community College, I think at the time when you were also president of the Sister Cities Board.
Yep, that's right. Many, many years ago.
I went into the minutes and found out you were president in 1997 through 1999.
I'm going to take your word for it. I couldn't remember when exactly that was, but yeah, it was sometime in the early 90s I knew. So
you were thanked for your service when you went off the board in 2005, and then I see we gave you some kind of honor 5 or 6 years later.
Okay. I'll take your word for it on that too, I guess. Yeah.
And your time was well documented. I've been reading through all of the minutes from the 1990s, and your 2 years provided a good chunk of that.
Good.
A lot of activity.
Yeah. I mean, really the motivation for that was that there was a lot of good activity happening, and the college wasn't always directly involved in it, but generally when people came to town, when different delegations would come to town, one of the stops would be the college. Yeah. So I get to meet everybody, and so it seemed like a good thing to get involved in it. I mean, at first I was simply a member, and then got on the board, and then eventually became president.
Then we started holding meetings here.
Yeah, we did.
Events.
Yeah. I mean, I think we like to. Yes, that's right. I think I'm curious if there's a closet still in Gackle Hall that has all those masks from Japan. I remember.
You know, I'm looking for that kind of stuff now. What I have is mostly paper. I'd love to have more photos and
I don't know
video if it exists.
I don't know that I have very many photos, but I wonder about that closet up there, if anyone has bothered to wonder what that stuff is. But at some point we were shuffling things around and there was no place else to store it. I think it was being stored downtown at City Hall. And at the time, they were running out of space in the basement there and asked if we had an extra place. And so we had a kind of a closet here at the college in Gackle Hall, and that wasn't being used at the time. So I remember putting it there. I'm hoping it's not.
This sounds like archaeology.
I know. I'm hoping it's not still there, but it might be. It may be.
The paperwork.
And there was some very interesting stuff.
Documents I've seen, I believe, went from you to John DeBeat in a filing cabinet.
Yeah.
And from there they went to a vinyl tub at Deb Hutton's house. And I'm the keeper of the tub this year.
Okay. Well, that's an honor.
I've asked our producer to put a few pictures on the screen, just a few. Thank goodness we have Facebook these days, because pictures get lost, but now we all have our smartphones and we're taking pictures all the time. And Chad, if we could get those up on the screen, see what we've got there.
Oh yeah, there's
this is a board of directors from about your time. I think Cindy Holst in the front row was president of the board at the time.
Yeah, this would have been when I first got on the board, I think. Yeah, so this would have had to have been in the late 80s.
90s.
90s. Okay.
90s, and I believe Cindy's the president there, which could make it about 95. And then you're in the back row beside Mike Steinmaus, who succeeded Cindy. And if you remember, you succeeded Mike.
Yeah, I remember that.
I hadn't known this, but back in the minutes, I found that at the end of Mike's term, or what would have been the end of a term, there was not a quorum at a meeting. And Mike sent out a memo to all the members saying, do you guys care about this organization?
Right.
You better show up at the next meeting. And then at the next meeting, there's a slate of officers, and Jeff's the president.
Right. Yeah, I think there was a time where it was difficult to get everybody, I mean, people are interested in the individual cities, and I think that's really where the first, sets of activities where there were individuals interested in this relationship and this relationship, but not so much as the organization. And I think at the time, even then, back then, we had 5 or 6 cities, which was unusual. I mean, if you went through
during your time, I think we were active in Argentina, Japan, Poland, maybe Poland.
Lomja and Drohobych came on when I was there. Yes,
and Russia. So
and
we
that was
those
Walter
5
really, but Yep, and there's.
And I went looking for you in an official capacity somehow, and on my computer, thanks to the facial recognition deal, I came up with you presenting a gift to two former presidents, Bob Fiedler and Cindy Holst.
Right.
And
And I think I still have that shirt. So that's a college shirt.
So that would be late 90s sometime.
Yeah.
What do we have next? Oh, this is the one where we honored you for something, for outstanding career or something.
Then I was showing up with suits on at that time. I obviously was in some other position here at the college, and maybe, I don't know. I don't recognize the picture. I recognize all.
2010, 2011, somewhere in there. Linda Malloy was in that earlier board meeting picture. She's on the
Right,
left
yeah.
as we look at it. And then I think you brought on both those other guys.
Yeah, Marshall and John obviously were very strong faculty members. John obviously still is on the faculty here. Marshall is retired, but
Marshall McDonald,
Marshall
John DeBeat.
McDonald taught and ran the ag department for many, many years, and then John is in the business department. Taught economics, as he used to say, as he still says.
Could be still. I think he still does.
Still says that, and I always point out that I was had the good fortune of hiring John DeBeat when we first were looking to replace Ron Hansen, as a matter of fact, a longtime economics faculty member here. So, well, this picture is actually, this is as a result of our relationship with the university in Drohobych, Ukraine, Ivo Franko University. It's a pedagogical university. And they amazingly gave me an honorary, this scroll that he's holding up. This is the former rector of the university, and this is an honorary doctorate that they awarded me.
Is that like a PhD here?
Yeah, I would guess. It's an honor. It's quite an honor to receive a honorary degree from a university like this. I'm trying to remember, I think I'm the 19th person to receive an honorary degree from them, and I'm the only American that had received a degree from them. The college actually, as a result of the sister city relationship, the college had developed a kind of a partnership program with the university there, and we sent a number of faculty and staff there over about an 8-year period, and so it was, it really, and I still, the person's hands that you see there in the corner, Alex, the person that's clapping there is Alex. I correspond with him all the time and hear from him pretty regularly. I have not been to Drohobych since this event. Actually, it's kind of an odd thing. What happened right after this was that volcano in Iceland.
I remember that.
Yeah, and so I was stranded there in Drohobych for about 10 extra days. I was the intention was to go for a week and then come back, and I ended up being there for about 10 days. So the first week, you know, everyone that I saw, they warmly greeted me, and it's great to see you, and that kind of thing. But by the end of the second week, I was getting to be old news.
You're still here?
Yeah, what are you doing here? We're not buying you breakfast today. So, but it was a very interesting period of time and to be in Europe. And I ended up having to take a train to Warsaw, and then I finally did catch a flight back to Chicago, but after about 10 days.
This isn't Sister Cities.
No, this is not a Sister Cities thing. I'm actually playing golf there this is a tee box, by the way, for those uninitiated to golf in Afghanistan, but I'm playing golf there in Kabul, Afghanistan. This was taken probably in 2012, I would guess. Yeah. And these are some of the people that I used to play golf with. Some still work on this project that I've been involved in there. And the golf course, unfortunately, is not really operating anymore. And you know, it's kind of a sad thing. I used to go really every weekend and go out and play, and this guy with the hat in the middle there, he and I would go and play pretty much every week from March till, you know, almost December. It's warm enough there.
I can't tell. Is that an American?
Yeah, and unfortunately, the security where the golf course is kind of way out of town near what's called the Karga Dam, and our security folks get nervous when you want to travel out there, and then eventually they just stopped us from doing that. But the guy I'm standing next to, Bashir, is still is a driver for us on this project, and still a very good guy.
I think I didn't get any farther in your biography. I said you were the dean, and then you were the president of the college.
Yes, yeah. Yeah.
And I know you were too busy for Sister Cities at that point.
Well, I mean, it just, you know, yeah, after a while you get to the point where you have to focus on, you focus on certain things. So, but I stayed involved with Sister Cities all the way through. Whenever groups would come, I wanted to, you know, greet them and
you did.
Sure we
you were a big asset.
Yeah.
And then it was off to Afghanistan after your president term here?
Well, I went from being president here at the campus and then spent some time in Davenport as what's the title is vice chancellor, and then really I hadn't really planned on it, but it just I took a leave of absence to do the project in Afghanistan. At the time, this was and actually I'm still involved in that project, but is managed by the University of Massachusetts, and I went to work for them, and they were building a community college system at the time. Now that project is still going on. I'm involved in some other things there too, but not so much directly with the community college project. But when I was in that position of vice chancellor, then a guy that's become a good friend of mine is called me out of the blue and asked me if I was interested, and a lot of that was really my motivation for the work I did have done and am doing in Afghanistan is really comes from the work that I had done through Sister Cities, through the college, that kind of thing, where I was always involved in very short-term things, and I in the
during your 2 years as president, I see that there were meetings you missed because you were in South Africa, you were in India.
I could at the most I could only go for 3 weeks, that kind of thing, and that always felt like that it wasn't enough, and I always wanted the opportunity to go someplace longer, learn about the culture, learn the language, that kind of thing.
So what is the Afghanistan project?
Well, it's a project to improve higher education, and it focuses on, it's developing, I think it's 29 new programs and market-oriented programs, business degrees, things like that. And
in Kabul or across the country?
Across the country at 11 universities across the country. There are 4 Kabul-based universities, and then the rest of them are all in the provinces: Herat, Kandahar, Mazar, Balkh, that kind of place.
I know you come home, but every time I'm on Facebook, it seems like you're jetting off again.
Well, I've been working there since 2012, pretty steady. Originally, I only went for 8 months. That was my original leave of absence, and that 8 months turned into 2 years, or 22 months of actually a leave of absence. And then in that time, the college offered an early retirement program, and I took that. And so retired from Eastern Iowa, or I didn't
you could
really
go to
retire.
work.
So actually I did it while I was in Afghanistan, and continued to work and continue to. I just got back at the end of April, and I'll be home. I'm home for the next couple of months, and then I'm kind of shifting my role with the project, where I was a long-term, what they call LTTA, long-term technical assistance, and to more short-term. So I'll only be going for shorter periods of time now. I won't. For the next couple of years, till the project ends.
I think I have another picture from Afghanistan. There we go.
Yeah, well, like I say,
You're the guy in the middle.
I am the guy with the hat and the scarf and the vest. Yeah, the Afghans love a good celebration and any excuse for cake. And so I think this is from a few years ago. This was, I think, during what was called the HEP project. This was the first project that I was there on, and so this was. I was heading home, and actually I did come home for a while, and I went to work for Northeast Iowa Community College for about a year. And so this is the end of that transition period, but then did go back to work on another project that was starting up now. That the project I've worked on, they all have kind of acronyms. This one's called USWDP.
I see. So. I won't remember.
Yeah.
Well, last year we were, and I probably can't read that, don't need to. This signifies that last year when we started celebrating our 30th anniversary, you sent us a statement that we read at the celebration, and it begins, "Greeting from always sunny Kabul, Afghanistan."
Right.
And you talked about how, I thought you talked nicely about how all these international connections with sister cities had been important for the college. And
yeah, I think
talked about international students as rock stars, I remember.
Yeah, they really were. We never have had lots and lots. You know, you can go to different colleges, and my daughter works at a college in Seattle that has 500-600 international students. You know, here I don't know what the census would have been, but we typically didn't get lots and lots of them, but we always had a kind of a core of them, and many of them came from the sister cities over the years, through relatives, through connections, those kinds of things, and then we got into some sponsored programs. And you know, there were really two principles driving the thought of that. One was the fact of having that student from, say, Egypt sitting next to you in a class was a very important thing for a kid maybe from Columbus Junction or from Letts that drives up, or from Muscatine.
Arab Spring comes along.
Well, it gave you a personal connection to maybe something that you knew about in the abstract, but here was an opportunity where you could actually ask somebody some specific question and say, you know, what's happening over there, that kind of thing. And then the other thing, what we tried to do with many of the international projects that we had, and you know, John and Marshall being involved directly with Sister Cities is a good example. But having an instructor have the opportunity to travel and interact in a different culture, in a different place, different setting, and then bring that back to their classroom. You know, we used to use the fancy title of a multiplier effect, because many of the students that attend a community college don't have the opportunity to study abroad. They don't. We've tried over the years to make you know, these things possible for students, but it's difficult because, you know, they have 3 kids. They're working full time, and so we were always looking for ways to internationalize the classroom without. If I could afford it and I could send every student, I would send every student on a trip abroad. It's a life-changing experience for many people, and it was certainly for me. And
but it's money, it's complicated arrangements.
It's complicated. So the next best thing was, can you bring students in, or can you have faculty go out? And that really drove many of the programs that we did in the late 90s and the early 2000s. That was really the motivation for much of it.
I read during your time there were issues with the Immigration Service, and this even before 9/11. We had issues with the Immigration Service because we had some students who, well, no, not necessarily students. We had some guests under the Sister Cities invitation who
I remember
took off on us.
Kid from Poland, in fact. I think I actually ran into him in Chicago one day, many years later, but he was working at the base of in the Sears Tower there. But yeah, you know, that happens, and it never affected us. I don't think we ever had any direct impact on visa issues from it. But over the years, I don't know, I never kept track, but 99% of everybody
Played by the rules.
Played
Sure.
by the rules and applied. If they wanted to stay, they went through the process to be able to do that. We had a few, I would say, a few that would stay beyond their status. And
I saw, in reading those minutes, I saw that it was during your time that the requirements for international students, at least at the high school level, got tougher than they had been before, and
I think they
cut off the flow.
Yeah, people began to look at the actual cost of things and say but I know, I mean, at some level many of the students, especially especially the places that we were going, where the students there were not in a position to be able to afford even our tuition or the high schools, but they at that time they had created a kind of a rule that said the student had to be able to at least pay for the cost of what it would cost to attend a high school here, and the state
Per capita.
Yeah, that whatever figure they were using at the time, it really was it still is very affordable, quite frankly. If you look in private international schools, but that changed some of the high school programming, and it didn't change ours so much. There were people in Muscatine who supported international students, both privately and publicly, and churches that stepped up and helped students out, and
You got
and I know our
dormitories, and you got into some grant programs that brought us.
Yes, and the foundation, the college foundation, was always very generous with some of those students when they would apply, if they were good students and they qualified and all those kinds of things. So I think we were fairly lucky. And I think there's great potential with students from China. I don't, I think they're still working on it. I did happen to go to China with the president of Northeast Iowa Community College and met with a number of colleges from Dubuque's sister city, as a matter of fact. And
So you were in Hebei, Iowa's sister state,
yes,
province.
Yeah. And I've forgotten the name of the city now, but we did visit, and they were working on that whole thing and using the sister city connection as a way. And the Chinese were much more anxious to sign documents and get moving than the college was really prepared to deal with, and because a lot of the systems there hadn't been set up, whereas within Eastern Iowa and at Muscatine, we had been dealing with international students. So I'm thinking, we have this lovely place to live here on campus, and that hopefully students from our sister city in China will be here in the next year or two, hopefully.
Well, and we know the new ambassador.
Yeah, that's true. I forgot that. Yes, that's true. So we should be able to have a favorable view of visas, I would guess.
I will take advantage of this entree to mention that John DeBeat spoke with Governor Branstad after he'd been named ambassador, and since that conversation, we've been talking about sending a Sister Cities delegation next summer. That would be 2018. I hope that Muscatine residents will be interested in taking part. And Governor Branstad, now ambassador, said, if you come, John, be sure that I will receive the Muscatine delegation at the embassy. So.
Yeah, it's something that's important to do. It's also important because of the visa issue that you can go and meet with the consular officials and sort of explain to them what you're doing and talk to them about the program, so they kind of have a face to when an individual or a delegation comes to the consulate to apply for a visa.
They've heard of that.
They know about it, and they can ask, they can get their questions answered, and so I would encourage any delegation, not just because because we know the ambassador, but any delegation, it's a good idea. And I know we did that when we were working in Ukraine. I made a couple of trips to the embassy.
Now, did you visit any of our sister cities but Drohobych, Ukraine?
No, I've only been to Drohobych, was the only one I've been to, yeah.
No one else offered a doctorate.
Well, that was kind of separate, but yes, that's right. I guess no one else offered a doctorate, but yeah, I think that's an interesting part of Sister Cities is that it's very important. It all starts with a fairly simple connection. Walter Conlon was the connection for both Lomja, I think, and then Drohobych. Because he had relatives, and then Ingrid.
Well, Lomja started with Marian Novich, who had.
That's right. I forgot that.
Who had Polish.
I forgot that. That's right. Yeah, I think Walter followed up on it, but yeah, and I think that's a very important part of it. And so, a lot of times there were people already involved in some of the relationships. And
in Sister Cities, it really is who you know.
Well, I a lot of it is
know.
about a relationship, yeah, and it's about developing relationships with individuals, and not to sound cliche, but that's the great thing about it. It's about building relationships, and yeah. So.
Well, I think we could go on and on, especially if we start talking about your international travels, because I know you've been other places. It looks like our half hour is coming to an end. I want to thank you, Jeff Armstrong, for being in town long enough to sit you down and
thank you for having me, and
reflect on our history and
anytime, and
tell us what it means.
Like I say, good luck to Sister Cities, and I'll stay involved as long as anybody wants me to. And if you go to China, maybe I'll go with you next year.
Start planning now.
Yeah.
Summer 2018.
There you go.
And of course, there are also opportunities to visit Kislovodsk, Russia, and Ramallah, Palestine.
Oh, I've been there. I've been to Ramallah.
You've been to Ramallah?
I've been to Ramallah. Okay.
There you
I
go.
forgot about that one. Sorry.
Lomja, Poland, and Ludwigslust, Germany. We're sending visitors this year. Walter Conlon, you mentioned, just back from Drohobych, I think, last night. He does that all the time.
Yeah, I need to get back to Drohobych, and I'm going to plan on doing that sometime.
So to our viewers, we haven't set up our YouTube channel yet, but that's in the plans, so you can watch this anytime, and all of our friends around the world. And in the meantime, look for us on Facebook, Muscatine Sister Cities Association. Until next time, I'm Dan Clark. Thank you for watching.